Hello once again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense issues. Fired Up is on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, YouTube, and numerous other media. If your local internet provider doesn't carry Fired Up, ask them to do that. A new show is posted every Thursday around 5 p.m. Pacific time. The audio feed for radio listeners is broadcast on Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out KELY1230.com for a station in your area. Last week's show was preempted, so we're by NASCAR and so forth, so I guess we've hit the big time when we get preempted. If you have questions or comments, you can send me an email to bob@firedupmail.com. That's bob@firedupmail.com. Or leave a message on my office recorder. You'll find that number, 702-257-1060. Again, that's 702-257-1060. If you don't leave contact information, I cannot call you back and answer your question. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms each week in the United States, rarely truthfully or fully covered by any mainstream media. I always select a few for my listeners' education. Most are good shootings, some are questionable, some are just plain wrong, but they're all educational for those of you who keep a defensive firearm in your home or carry one for self-defense in your vehicle or on the street. Individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law, so the advice given here may not apply in the area where you live. Get advice from a local gun law savvy defense attorney. If anything happens, a gun savvy lawyer needs to be there before you get involved in explanations. Stories here are often paraphrased for clarity by translation from police jargon, lawyer speak, or regional accents into more standard American English. The incidents are as reported. The names of individuals involved are generally deleted. The identification of the cops and the lawyers and the media are generally used. This first story is a little off the beaten path. I spent the last day or two looking at the programs and comments from the Democratic National Convention. At the Democratic National Convention, anti-gun violence organizations are expecting Democrat nominee Joe Biden to highlight the issue during his acceptance speech, which will be actually tonight, Thursday night, I am told. We can always expect from him, what we always expect from him on our issue is really strong and thoughtful leadership. He knows our organization well. He's been working for us for over 30 years, said Brady PAC Executive Director Brian Lemick. The Brady PAC, the sister organization to the nation's oldest anti-gun violence advocacy group, touted that Biden helped pass the Brady Bill in 1993, which implemented the modern background check system that advocates are now pushing to reform. And by reform, I don't mean make it better for gun owners. The Brady PAC, formed during the 2018 election cycle, has raised nearly $100,000 for the Biden campaign with a goal of hitting $250,000. The PAC, which endorsed Biden in March, has also given nearly $1 million to House and Senate races this cycle. John Feinblatt, president of Everytown for Gun Safety, has not yet made a direct contribution to Biden's campaign. However, Feinblatt said, given his decades-long leadership on gun safety, we can be absolutely certain that Biden, who has pledged to take action on gun safety in the first 100 days in office and committed $900 million to local violence intervention programs, will be the strongest gun sense president we have ever seen. Piecing this together, Biden's plan includes spending $900 million to help cities combat gun violence, strengthen laws to protect women and prevent domestic violence, and curtail harassment online that could lead to gun violence. The Democrat online convention comes right after a lawsuit filed by the New York Democrat Attorney General seeking to dissolve the NRA, alleging that the organization violated state law governing nonprofits. The suit accuses 4 top NRA officials, including the CEO, Wayne LaPierre, of diverting millions of dollars away from its charitable mission. Gun safety advocates are hoping the lawsuit will force the NRA to spend their resources on litigation instead of 2020 campaigns. Feinblatt said that rather than buying political ads, they're going to be paying, rather than buying political ads, the NRA is going to be paying legal bills. Using lawsuits to attack political opposition is not something that we think should be done. The NRA spent $36 million backing President Trump in the 2016 cycle. Everytown for Gun Safety Action Fund and Victory Fund, co-founded by billionaire and former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, plans to spend $60 million on elections in 2020. I just discovered today that Michael Bloomberg, of all people, will be speaking at the Democratic Convention on the air tonight. The 2020 Democrat platform calls for ending the epic of gun violence, referring to it as a health crisis rather than a criminal activity. The Democrat platform also calls for universal firearm background checks, an end to online sales of guns and ammunition, and closing loopholes that allow individuals convicted of hate crimes to buy firearms. Guess that depends on how they define a hate crime. Gabrielle Giffords' group, Everytown for Gun Safety, has given $10,000 to the Biden Victory Fund. The organization is focused on Senate races and has given nearly $200,000 in federal races. Gifford endorsed Biden in March, and her husband is seeking the Senate seat in Arizona held by Republican Martha McSally. Gifford's campaign spokesman said Vice President Biden is a bold leader with a clear and robust gun violence prevention platform that shows his commitment to taking action from the day he steps into the White House. He added, Biden's gun control plan probably is the most comprehensive in American history for our issue. I believe it is. It also includes buying back assault weapons and high-capacity magazines that are already in the community, reducing stockpiling of firearms, and enacting universal background check legislation. Biden's plan includes banning manufacture and sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. That high-capacity magazine ban just got cut off by the Ninth Circuit yesterday, if you watch the news. At this moment, your high-capacity magazines are legal again in certain states that are under the Ninth Circuit jurisdiction. Anyway, regulating possession of existing assault weapons. The most important part of the Democrat Biden-Harris plan is holding gun manufacturers accountable by repealing the protection under the PLCAA enacted in October 26, 2005. This is the most important part of this tirade I'm doing. The protection of lawful firearms, the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Firearms Act is a United States law which protects firearms manufacturers and dealers from being held liable for third-party misuse or crimes committed with their products. It's kind of akin to holding Ford and Chevy responsible for speeding drunk drivers. Ending the Lawful Commerce and Firearms Act will end the firearms manufacturing and sales in America the next day. If manufacturers and dealers and distributors can be sued for criminal misuse of their products when they had no contact with the ultimate user, it's sold, traded, stolen, and it's been on the black market for 10 years, and somebody uses that gun in a crime. I'm thinking somewhere around 400,000 guns that I sold when I had my retail gun shop, over 25 years, 30 years of that. How many guns are out there that I could personally be sued for because now they're being misused by some criminal or insane person or thief that stole the gun? This law change will end the firearms business in America immediately. All the rest of the crap they're talking about would hurt. If this one is added to it, as the campaign says they will, we're done, folks. I can do this show and talk about, remember the guns you used to have and how much fun it was to go shooting? We're going to break now for a word from some of our friends and associates. I'll be right back. This is a reminder to all our listeners. Keystone Corporation, it's a conservative organization that I'm on their board of directors, is having their annual dinner on Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. The featured speaker is Karl Rove. It is at the Venetian Hotel. For information, you can visit online to www.keystonenevada.com and get all the information. Tables are available for groups, and Karl Rove is an amazing commentator. You don't want to miss this. It is going to be the conservative event of the year. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. And I'm back. WTSP TV10 reported July 10, 2020 in West Chapel, Florida. 3 armed intruders targeted a home when they broke into a Florida gun enthusiast's house early Friday morning. The homeowner was awake playing video games when he heard glass shatter just before 1 in the morning. Investigators said he grabbed a gun and walked to the back of the house. He found a masked intruder in the hallway pointing a gun at him. The homeowner fired his gun, striking the intruder. A second intruder, also pointing a gun toward the homeowner, was behind the first one. The homeowner shot him, and he fell to the floor as well. The homeowner briefly saw a third intruder and fired, but his gun jammed. He grabbed another gun, but the intruder was out the door by then. The homeowner got a phone call from a neighbor who told him he was holding that surviving intruder at gunpoint. Deputies were called to the scene. 2 invaders were pronounced dead. The names of those 2 intruders who died will not be released until after family notifications. The third of the would-be robbers, age 19, was taken to the hospital for treatment. That 19-year-old was later arrested and charged with 2 counts of second-degree homicide and 1 count of home invasion robbery. This is the explanation. He is accountable for the deaths because it was during the commission of a felony that was involved in those 2, and the 2 people died. This is from Pasco County Sheriff Chris Nocco, N-O-C-C-O, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that right. Sheriff Nocco added that the 2 deceased intruders had extremely violent criminal history. The surviving 19-year-old has a previous arrest for battery. The homeowner believes he was targeted because he is a gun enthusiast and posts pictures of his firearms on his social media website, Channel 10 also reported. Comments are first, the felony murder rule provides accomplices' deaths are chargeable as murder, so this 19-year-old can be charged with 2 counts of murder. Whether it would be first or second degree depends on a few odd things, but the victim here apparently puts pictures of his gun collection on social media. Does that not increase the risk of burglaries or home invasions? This incident indicates that it currently could draw in criminals. Obviously it could, because it did. Another problem here, he has a home defense gun that jams. We always want to upgrade our equipment to what I call the bullet of the week, because of some ammo makers' new advertising that they have now developed the best bullet in the world. I mean, I've been around since Supervels and we're going back 40 years. We're the bullet of the week, and we've had a new one every week since. First, make sure it works in your primary defense gun. Always test fire and practice with your self-defense firearm loaded with the ammo you plan to use in an emergency. We're going to get one more here, and then we're going to look at maybe next week's show. This third story is from KLEM TV. A reporter named Melissa Papanek reported July 8th, 2020 in Blue Lake, California. The Humboldt County Sheriff's deputies said a 39-year-old employee of the Patriot gas station on Blue Lake Boulevard shot a man who was robbing the business on the night of July 2nd. Deputies said around 9:45 p.m., the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office was dispatched to a report of a possible armed robbery with shots fired. Deputies found a 53-year-old man on the ground outside the business with a gunshot wound to the chest. Despite medical efforts, he died at the scene. The sheriff's office identified the man who was killed as a 53-year-old from Santa Rosa through his fingerprints. The gas station employee had initially been arrested on a murder charge that night and was booked on a no-bail status. Deputies said they learned the 53-year-old approached the employee and a patron who were outside the business, displaying what appeared to be a gun. We'll question that one later. The 39-year-old employee and the bystander ran, and the robber proceeded with his robbery of the business, presumably of a walk-up window. The 53-year-old robber was shot as he left the business. Investigators interviewed witnesses and reviewed surveillance footage inside the business. The gas station did not have functioning surveillance cameras outside where the shooting occurred. According to the deputies, the 39-year-old employee denied shooting the suspect in his initial statement and provided information inconsistent with the evidence at the scene. Through further investigation, deputies determined the employee shooter made efforts to conceal his gun before law enforcement arrived. A bullet consistent with the evidence collected at the scene was located in the employee's pocket during the search of his person. 5 days later, on July 7, the employee admitted he shot the robbery suspect and said it was in self-defense. Lie to the cops. Humboldt County District Attorney Maggie Fleming has declined to prosecute the employee for killing the person who robbed the business on the night of July 2nd. The employee had stated he acted in self-defense. No witness statements, no other evidence contradict that assertion. The employee also stated he possessed a gun in response to a recent prior robbery at his workplace. In reaching the decision, her decision before the person arrested has to be either charged or released, the DA benefited from the complete and efficient investigation by the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. Officials have also determined the deceased robber is a possible suspect in another robbery the same week. The investigation into that case is ongoing. I don't know where to begin with this comment. There's some question as to whether the robber had a real firearm. That is not dealt with in the reports that are available. However, if a bad guy claims or gestures that he is armed, the victims are certainly allowed to believe him. This appears to be a valid shooting, even given California's harsh view of armed self-defense. Lying to responding officers and detectives, however, is really stupid. The crime scene investigators will reconstruct the events. If you choose not to speak to the facts, that's fine. Wait until your lawyer is there. Making up stuff makes you guilty of something. This guy ends up spending several days in jail over this when he could have been walking around all that time. Lying to the cops is not smart. I'm going to run one more story here, and then we're going to call it an afternoon. This is from WRSP Fox 55, reported on July 7th in Champaign, Illinois. A shooting took place on 11th Street earlier when a 29-year-old male suspect tried to forcibly enter a residence in the 1400 block of North 11th Street. This happened at 3:30 in the early morning. Got the picture, 3:30 in the morning. Witnesses told authorities that when the 29-year-old arrived at the residence, he repeatedly banged on the door and threatened violence. Witnesses also said the 29-year-old went to a bedroom window and forced an air conditioning unit through it in order to gain entry to the residence. He pushed the air conditioner in so he could climb in behind it. At this time, the 26-year-old resident allegedly fired a gun toward the window, striking the would-be home invader. The Sangamon County State's Attorney said a female resident was also present at the time of the reported forced entry. She is the named victim in a pending felony case against the 29-year-old for unlawful violation of a protective order. So she's got a protective order. He's trying to break into her house by shoving an air conditioner in at 3 in the morning. Under the Illinois Criminal Code, the person is justified in the use of deadly force when the person reasonably believes that such force is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself or another, or in the commission of a forcible felony. Due to the circumstances, police say the resident discharged the firearm to prevent a forcible felony, that being home invasion. Additionally, an investigation by the Springfield Police Department indicates that the 29-year-old attempted to enter the residence in a violent, riotous, and tumultuous manner. I love the wording of statutes, following threats of violence. Therefore, the 26-year-old resident believed deadly force was necessary to prevent an assault upon or offer personal violence to him or another then in the dwelling. As a result, no additional charges relating to the shooting will be filed at this time. This 29-year-old perp has been charged with armed habitual criminal, a Class 10 felony, unlawful possession of a weapon by a felon, a Class 2 felony. The 29-year-old had been convicted of 2 forcible felonies, residential burglary in 2012 and aggravated battery, aggravated means with great bodily harm, in 2018. He was on parole at the time of the shooting and turned himself into Springfield Police on July 7. Remember the statistic that the population, 5% of the population commits 95% of the time. This is a clear example. This idiot is a career criminal out for a short vacation from his prison life. Given his long criminal history, he's likely going back to prison, his prison home, for a very, very long time. We're going to wrap it up there, folks. So let me go to my closing, and I will be talking about next week's show. Yes. My book is out. This is the new book, replacing the old red book that you are familiar with, reprinted dozens of times. This new one about armed self-defense in Nevada is available on Kindle, Amazon Kindle, for $4.99, and we're putting together some commercials about it, which will be on here next week. But we're trying to scramble to put them together, asking me how to market something online. You all know how good I am with computers, so we're not going to try to do that here, but we will have some information on it going out on our website very, very shortly. Check out our recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains several dozen episodes. Please patronize our friends and supporters. We'll be back next Thursday on my website, firedupwithboberwin.com, the American Guns and Glory Network, and numerous other websites, television, and radio stations. When watching any media, just click on subscribe, and new shows will be sent to your phone or computer automatically. My logo merchandise, now mostly books, but a few shirts and hats and so forth, are available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus on the Strip. If you are ever in Las Vegas, Battlefield Vegas is a must-see attraction. You can shoot a minigun or any of hundreds of firearms and even crush a car with an Abrams tank at their outdoor facility. Transportation is provided. You can contact them online at info@battlefieldvegas.com. Thank you so much for watching. We will be back next week with more stuff, I'm sure, on the Democratic gun grab that's coming up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.